This is Joshua Hart here for Seconds Out. Delighted today to be joined by Jamie Moore. Jamie, it's fight week. Josh Taylor, Jack Catterall, the rematch. How are we feeling first of all? How are we?
I'm alright, mate. How are you?
I'm very, very well. Very happy to be here. Biggest fight week of the year domestically. We'll get straight into things. For Jack, this is the biggest fight of his career, I'd say, in terms of bragging rights. So when we look at the first fight, there was a lot more on the line, but this one, I think it's a bit of a bigger fight now. British boxing fans are interested they're fully invested in this fight. As a coach, just how big is this fight for yourself?
Yeah, obviously it's a huge fight domestically. I think I disagree from the terms of it's a bigger fight for us because obviously the titles was on the line last time. But in terms of what it means for Jack's career and sort of the trajectory where it'll go afterwards, yeah, it's a massive fight, and maybe that period of time in between where it sort of matured and grew legs and the sort of delay has made it more intriguing and more, people are anticipating it more.
And how has training camp gone? Obviously, before we fully get into the training camp, in the Matchroom training camp documentary they did, you got that really raw bit of footage. I spoke to Sam Jones about this, about when he gets the call from Tom Granton saying, "Listen, this fight's off." In the heat of the moment, what was going through your head at the moment?
Well, I just felt sick, because the fight had been on and off a few times before that. My initial reaction was it's not going to happen, but thankfully it was only a delay of 4 weeks, and nothing really changed. We just had to take our foot off the gas a little bit, and in a few little ways it's helped us because he's had a little bit more rest in between his harder sessions because he was sort of in front of where he needed to be, and it's made the weight that little bit better. So every cloud has a silver lining, you know what I say.
Was there ever any thought, obviously I know after about an hour you're going to think, right, okay, it's just a little 4-week delay, but was there any ever thought that this fight couldn't happen, especially with the history of how many times a rematch has been penciled in? Was there ever any doubt in the mind?
You seen Jack's initial reaction was like, fuck it, I'm not fighting him. And I honestly thought that was it. It had been made and fell through that many times. That moment in time, I thought it's not going to happen. But then, after about half an hour, and Sam had been on phone back and forth to Frank Smith, we realised it was only a 4-week delay. Then I was more confident it was going to happen then.
And when we look at the training camp, obviously, I think this fight is one of those where we know tensions are high, we know there's bad blood between them. As a former fighter yourself, and you've probably been in fights where it's been a little bit hot-headed, how do you help Jack keep his head at times and not let the emotions get the best of him?
Jack's one of them fighters where he's like a dream to train, and from the sense of, I don't have to crack the whip with him. He grasps when he needs to grasp. The main thing I have to do is tell him to make sure he has enough rest. And from a temperament point of view, he's the perfect type of guy to be involved in this type of fight because he's very good at keeping a cool head, emotionless, really. And whether Josh can try and he's going to try and rile him and get him emotionally involved remains to be seen. But from all my experience over the years with Jack, he doesn't rise to that. He's cool, calm, collected.
And how does Saturday night go? Obviously, you know how Jack's looked in the gym. What do you expect to see in the ring on Saturday night?
I expect a better performance from Jack. Going into the first fight, it was sort of unknown territory, and he'd not boxed for 16 months. Nobody really gave Jack a chance. Everyone was quite surprised with the sort of confidence we had in Jack. But it's because I know him inside out. I've seen what he can do, and he's in much better form now. He's had consistency. He's boxed regularly, and I expect a better performance. Whether he can stop him remains to be seen. But I anticipate an emphatic win for Jack.
I've got to ask you about last weekend, Fury versus Usyk, the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. What did you make of the fight, first of all? It was almost the polar opposite to what the fans expected, wasn't it?
Yeah, in many ways. I mean, a lot of people was picking Fury to sort of try and box him on the back foot. But Usyk was phenomenal in the way he closed the distance and used that pressure with his feet, sort of right in front of him, and sort of mental pressure where he was triggering him and drawing shots out of him. Come through a few rough patches in the middle rounds, and then came on strong, and he was close by the end. But I thought the right person won.
I suppose after about 6-7 rounds, a lot of people were almost thinking Fury looks in control. it's his fight to lose now, and then out of nowhere, Usyk lands an unbelievable shot. And we've seen Fury in a worse way than, I think, probably the worst way we've ever seen him, especially when you think of the fighters he's been in there with. It's quite remarkable, isn't it, seeing the way Usyk got him?
Well, consistency, and he trusted in his skill set, and his timing's phenomenal with that backhand. And as the fight goes on, as long as you keep that sort of timing and the pressure, he drew them feints, he drew the shots, and he came on with that counter backhand over the top, and he changed the fight. He sort of flipped it on his head. I think Fury was probably gaining a bit of momentum at that point, and he turned on his head, and that's what great fighters do.
And when Fury was very quick in the press conference post-fight to say he was unhappy with the corner, saying there was probably, from what it seemed, there was too many voices there. There was too many people telling him to do too many different things, and they didn't communicate that he was down on the cards. He, in his words, said if he knew he was down, he would have done something about it going into 11 and 12. As a coach, obviously you know how to handle a corner. Do you feel it should just be one voice and one voice only? Yeah,
I mean, me and Nigel have worked together for years now, and we sort of understand each other, and he would never talk over me at the same time. We have had those conversations over the years and vice versa. I think it's about knowing each other and working alongside each other. But hindsight's great, isn't it? If Fury would have won that fight, no one would have said anything about the corner. So I understand people's concerns and opinions, but say for instance that 9th round didn't turn the fight and Fury won it on the cards by a couple of rounds, I feel like nobody would have said anything about the corner. So it's only because he lost the fight people are talking about it. So it is what it is.
And what needs to change going into the rematch? I guess you could say on both ends, because it wasn't a perfect performance from either. Usyk obviously got tagged quite early on. What needs to change?
Maybe that one punch changed the trajectory of the fight, but I've got a feeling that Usyk worked Fury out by the midpoint. He struggled with him early on, he worked him out, and I've got a feeling he'd start a rematch better. Fury, I believe, would have to do something different. I don't think he could do the same thing and expect a different result. So, which he's got it in his locker. He's definitely got a few different strings to his bow where he could change things up and maybe utilise his size better this time. I'm not saying do it throughout, maybe go in and out of those styles, but Usyk's brain is like an alien. The way he works you out, and his feet are phenomenal. And I just feel like he's probably going to do the same again, but he's going to start what he sort of picked up from the midpoint earlier.
And my very last thing to talk about, June 22nd, you've got Cameron Vong and Akib Fiaz back in action. We'll start off with Cameron, the rescheduled date with Jordan Flynn. How's preparation going for Cam?
Yeah, good. He had a little niggle which delayed the fight, but he's over that now, and he's always in good shape. He's always training. He lives for the sport, and it's a good fight. It's a good fight at this stage of his career. It's a good learning fight. I'm sure he'll be tested in the fight, but I'm 100% confident in his ability. He'll come through it. And in the long run, it'll be one of those fights where you look back and you go, you know what, that was a bit of a test, but he stood me in better stead in the future when he gets into bigger fights than he would have if he was just fighting sort of everyday journeyman.
Does it show the confidence that not just yourself but Sam Matchroom having him, taking him on, Jordan Flynn's there's no rollover, he'll be there to win. Does it just show the confidence that you guys all have in him?
Well, I think that's evident. We've not shied away, even the way he's been matched even before that. We've not been your typical sort of easy walkovers. So yeah, I think it's obvious with the confidence we've got in his ability, and I'm sure he'll showcase that on June 22nd.
And Akib Fiaz back for the first time since the defeat to against Kane Baker, and again Kane Baker, we know what he's about. His game is anything. It's a very tough fight for the comeback, and especially when it is going to be Kane's final professional fight at home in Birmingham. It's got all the ingredients to be a fantastic fight, doesn't it?
Of course it has. And again, we boxed Kane. I think it was Akib's 5th fight or something like that. I'm a big believer in when you've got a prospect coming through and they've got ability, you shouldn't undermatch him. You should match him. At the time, it was a match where it was a bit of a question mark. Was it too early for him? But he proved that it wasn't. And similarly now, we know it's not an easy fight. We know Kane's going to come and give it his all, but it's a good fight for Akib. But I don't want Akib to go backwards and just watch someone who's going to shell up and not give him anything to think about. So, and I really like Kane. You know, I've got a lot of time for him. Over the years, since the first fight with Akib, you know, we've got a lot of respect for him, and people like him are so important for this sport, because he's the type of, you wouldn't even call him a journeyman. He's the type of opponent where, win or lose, you get something from him. You know, Akib gained a lot of experience from the first time, and I'm sure he's going to have a hell of a fight with him this time. But again, I'm confident that Akib's got the ability to come through it.
Jamie, it's a good place to leave it. Thank you very much for your time, and best of luck on Saturday night.
Thank you, mate.